Hello, hello, Ultimate Wellness Tribe. Today I'm speaking with Dr. Vonda Wright, double board certified, fellowship trained orthopedic sports surgeon and an internationally recognized authority on active aging and mobility. We are so honored to have Dr. Vonda Wright as a keynote speaker at the Ultimate Wellness Conference at Faena Forum in Miami Beach on September 26th through 28th. And we look forward for Dr. Vonda's keynote speech, which is based on her book UnBreakable: Go Strong, Live Long, Age with Power. So please join us to be empowered to meet Dr. Vonda and other leading longevity experts in person and learn about the latest advancements in longevity science-based strategies for peak performance, vibrant health, and optimized life. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Vonda. I'm super excited to learn from you. I'm thankful that you joined me today and prepared some questions to you.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me.
First of all, of course, let's introduce your book.
Sure.
And in your book, you mentioned time bombs. Those factors which makes us age faster and lose our mobility, which is not good because we want to age strong and live this fulfilled life and be able to move and spend active time. So I guess that this time bombs, it's some hallmarks of aging, as far as I understand. I didn't read your book yet, but I hope I will have my copy soon. Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure you will have your copy too soon. And so in the book, UnBreakable, which I have a big poster of, I can show you, it's coming out August 26th, so just in time for your conference. We wanted to approach longevity for women, and here's why. And I'll return to the conversation about time bombs, but here's why. A lot of what's going on in the longevity and biohacking space really is focused on men. And that's fantastic. But the reality is that 51% of everybody in the world are women. And I know as a scientist, and we're going to be having lots of discussions about this, down to the very stem cell level. People born with XX chromosomes and XY chromosomes are very different. In fact, in our own lab, when I used to be at the University of Pittsburgh, my co-researchers found that even in the muscle satellite cells that we were studying, the same stimuli on those satellite cells produced completely different end results depending on if the stem cells came from an XX being, a female, versus an XY being. So in my lab, in the lab of Dr. Johnny Huard, we studied a type of stem cells that we originally called muscle-derived stem cells. They are actually satellite stem cells now in modern nomenclature. But what I'm expressing to you is the fact that in the longevity space, it's mostly just science of men, interpretation of studies in men applied to women. And I believe that since 51% of all people in the world are women, that we need to take a minute and approach it from the standpoint of the 51%. And that's what UnBreakable does. It addresses not only 6 of the 12 hallmarks of aging, which I think I've prioritized as the most important, and uses those as a lens to then suggest lifestyle interventions that we believe are best for women. And so it's an approach that hasn't been taken very often in the longevity space, because here's the reality, Julia. When you look at pop culture and you think about men living longer, we call that longevity. When we look in the pop culture space and think about women living longer, many times it's labeled as anti-aging, as if it's a problem. So we are trying to reverse the nomenclature and really look to the future with hope. And that's what UnBreakable, Go Strong, Live Long, Age with Power is all about.
You mentioned 6 hallmarks of aging. Could you please name them? Let's discuss what are the main hallmarks of aging, and you said you cover it in your book. So actually, there will be explanation and probably some suggestions on daily habits, how we can manage those hallmarks of aging, right?
Some of them that I talk about all the time, they're started out with very few, and then over time they've evolved. Now the last paper has 12 or 13, but we just chose a few for the book, including the fact that your DNA is not your destiny, that we think that only about 20% of the expression of our health and aging is due to your absolute genetic code.
Has a 80% epigenetic expression, and everything influences our genes expression, from our thoughts to our how we exercise, sleep, nutrition. Yeah, I believe in this as well so much, because I like to think that we have power over our genetics, and we can do a lot. We can do a lot to manage it. Yeah. So DNA is not the destiny. I like this.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other hallmarks we cover is the role of inflammation. And here's something interesting specifically to women, right? So inflammation is a normal process in the body. I'm an orthopedic surgeon and I deal with inflammation of joints and body parts all the time. But it's when inflammation goes on, it becomes inflammaging, which is one of the root causes of many human diseases. So in women, it's different, right? So we have the normal inflammaging that happens, but when women starting in their 40s and culminating in their 50s have a rapid decline in their estrogen, estrogen itself is a powerful anti-inflammatory agent in the body. So if we just address inflammaging in a generalized sense, we would miss 50% of the population who are going to have the added inflammatory process of losing their estrogen during perimenopause and menopause. And we address that as we talk about it. Another hallmark of aging that we discuss, one of my favorites, is the role of mitochondria. When I was a college student, I spent a long time under electron microscopes taking pictures of cellular organelles. And your audience probably knows that, but mitochondria are responsible for generating ATP out of a variety of energy sources. And so we talk about how not only anti-inflammatory nutrition, but different modes of exercise can contribute to mitochondrial health, and what time bombs contribute in terms of behaviors to mitochondria dyshealth. So those are just three of the things we cover, because the book is an education before we get to the action.
Once we mentioned mitochondria, have you heard about mitochondrial replacement, like hormonal replacement therapy, which I would like to discuss with you, but have you heard, you definitely heard, about mitochondrial replacement therapy, what you think about this, and especially how it can influence genetics of our next generations? Your thoughts about this, if you have any.
You know what, I think that, and I am not an expert in mitochondrial replacement, but in mitochondrial diseases, which are genetic diseases, that's probably the first impact of mitochondrial replacement as a longevity tool.
Yeah.
I am not aware that we're doing it in humans. Like so much of longevity science, it's being done in murine, which means mouse and rat models. So as a clinician, it's interesting, but probably not ready for prime time.
Okay. How about this hormonal replacement therapy? Do you suggest it as a good intervention for longevity? And yeah, you mentioned that with aging, menopause, estrogen declines, and it's natural, inevitable process. We can manage, we can delay, we can slow this pace of estrogen decline, but we cannot reverse it totally. We can just adapt. As far as I understand this, maybe we will find some interventions to reverse it, but as of now, I don't know such an interventions. However, with hormonal replacement therapy, we can kind of successfully manage it if the hormonal replacement therapy done by really experienced doctor. And I emphasize here doctor, not clinic, because usually good doctor, we need to search for good doctor, not for good clinic. This is how I understand, because I also consider for myself this hormonal replacement therapy, maybe not right now, I don't do it yet, but obviously looking for it for future. What do you think? Do you suggest?
So before I answer a question about hormone replacement therapy, or as Amy Killen, who is just another great doctor, has now liked to put it, hormone optimization therapy, here's my position on it. Every person is a sentient being, meaning we have agency, we have choice. So when I answer this in a very powerful way, it's not because I'm insisting every single person must do hormone optimization therapy. But what I am saying is that that choice that you make must be made with science and not fear. So it is my position that every single woman deserves to have a risk assessment to evaluate what her risk is, like you would with any drug or any procedure. This is no different. Every time I do a procedure as a surgeon, I go over risk and benefits. It is the same with hormone optimization, number one. That being said, I am not suggesting hormone optimization for merely the symptoms of menopause that are most talked about: hot flashes, night sweats, brain fog. Critical for those things, because those all have long-term consequences. But it's the things we don't feel that estrogen optimization, progesterone if you need it, testosterone if you decide to take it, can be critical in, including bone density. 1 in 2 women will have an osteoporotic fracture. We know that estrogen plays a critical role in bone density. There are many studies which show that estrogen can prevent cardiovascular disease. Lisa Mosconi's own work, who's one of the premier brain scientists in the world, has shown that the brain is full of estrogen receptors. So it's my position that hormone optimization is the elixir of longevity, in that if we apply lifestyle changes, we can affect a lot of good health span. But I equally support every person making their hormone optimization decision because of the biochemical and the physical manifestations. Because listen, I think it's easy to talk about theoretically what happens as we age, but as a practicing orthopedic surgeon who I continue to practice, I have seen more than 100,000 people in my lifetime. It's not theoretical. I am met every day in the emergency room with frail women who have fallen down. They're incontinent, they have heart disease and a titch of dementia. Those are all things that can happen with aging, but all things that are made worse by a deficit in hormones that were never addressed. And so when I come off powerfully like this, it's because of what I see every day, which is women suffering. And I don't want to see that.
You mentioned estrogen, and it's often discussed when we think about menopause and aging for females. I know that also testosterone often should be optimized for high performers, and with aging as well. Some of my biohacking besties optimize their testosterone to perform better in gym, to lift more weight. So not only estrogen, but testosterone is also, even though it's more like man hormone, but it's also important for
No, it is not a man hormone.
Yeah, okay.
Women make a significant amount of testosterone, and men make a significant amount of estrogen. So I just call them hormones, just like thyroid hormones, not man or women. But you have a point. I mean, I understand the point you're making. Testosterone is FDA approved in this country for the treatment of hypolibido in women. But the reality is, many of us like it because of its effects on energy and bone density and communication. So we have a little bit of ways to go to get it readily accessible to women. But those that choose to take it have some really profound benefits from it.
Yeah. The most important that everything has to be data-driven and personalized. Of course, we need to see how high we optimize it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Okay, so one of my next questions, and you already mentioned that, was about elixir for longevity. And what do you mean by this, and how it helps us to build an unbreakable body and mind? Because I believe in this constant communication between body brain, and of course, if we build strong body and unbreakable body, for sure, it optimizes our brain, mind, and cognition, and this performance when we perform not only physical tasks but all our other daily tasks. And of course, we are more effective once we build this strong body, but also optimize our mind. So what is the elixir for longevity? What is that?
Yeah, the elixir of longevity, as I mentioned, is hormone replacement or hormone optimization. But here's the thing, it can never act alone. I would never say to someone, okay, just do hormone optimization. I would also say we must build lean muscle mass. We must build bone density. We must be interested in high protein, anti-inflammatory diet. Sleep, as everyone knows at this point, is critical, as is social interaction. But something that I write about in the book as part of being unbreakable is not only the hormone replacement, is not only the physical investments to build bone and muscle, but it's also building a better brain. We know that physical exercise actually causes the transcription of proteins like clotho, which is the longevity protein, or galanin, which is a protein that is transcribed when we contract skeletal muscle. It goes to the nucleus ceruleus and helps with brain function. Even something like bone, which I love bone. I'm a bone doctor. People think bone is just this silent structural being holding up our muscle, which without bone, muscle is just a quivering mass of metabolic tissue. Bone is all those things. It's structural, it's mineral, it houses and incubates our immune system. But get this, it is a master endocrine communicator. And if we take just one hormone, one protein that bone makes called osteocalcin, osteocalcin travels to the brain and stimulates neurogenesis. Amazing. A bone protein stimulates the neurogenesis via the bone brain axis. Number two, it goes to the muscle in the pancreas and is critically involved in glucose metabolism.
The more muscles we have, the better we utilize glucose, the less glucose spikes we have, and the better insulin sensitivity we have.
Yes, but the point is, osteocalcin from the bone goes to the muscle in the pancreas. I mean, everyone right now is talking, and I'm very, very happy about it as a person who had a muscle stem cell lab, that about muscle. But what we're not talking about, and what I'm spending 2025 bringing to the fore, is that bone is an endocrine organ, and through even osteocalcin from bone, we're regulating sugar. We're causing the production of testosterone. So it's just fascinating.
Yeah. What would be the best suggestions for this bone health, muscle building? And let's talk a little bit about supplements. D3K2, one of my favorite supplements. I always rotate supplements. It's not like I take all of them the same all time. I always rotate, and we already know this is the best strategy when we switch supplements from time to time. I exploring now sheatine from JJ Virgin. Creatine was in my supplementation protocol for some time. Now I switched to sheatine, D3K2 to make sure I have this good level of vitamin D, or better to say hormone D, and make sure that K2 comes together with this. Of course, omega-3 is super important supplement for females, and there are many of them other, but we don't have time to discuss all supplements and all protocol. What would be the best suggestion, like must have? What is must have?
So I think that every woman is different, and some of these we do lab values for, but I certainly support measuring your vitamin D. Most of us are low, and supplementing vitamin D. combining it with K2 for absorption. In that same realm, I'm a big supporter of magnesium, 500 milligrams.
By the
Also,
way, JJ Virgin added to her creatine, she added magnesium. So it already comes with magnesium.
yeah. The difference, I believe, I've talked to JJ about this, between the product that she has and the more common creatine, is that the most common and well-studied creatine is monohydrate. I believe, and I don't want to misquote her, I think hers is hydrochloride. So she built it to so that it's not so GI upsetting. Sometimes people have trouble with GI upset with creatine, and she's trying to address that as we take 5 grams of creatine a day for muscle building, for instance. So we covered vitamin D, K2, magnesium. I agree. Omega-3 is a great thing to have. Creatine is not really a supplement, but 5 grams a day. Most of my patients are on that. And here's the thing. I think there are lots of ways to layer on a wide variety of supplements, but I find that most people come to me wanting to skip ahead to really avant-garde, edgy longevity practices, but they have not optimized their health first. So my approach as a surgeon is, we're going to optimize health. Then we're going to take you to peak performance based on what labs are demonstrating.
Yeah, because intense exercising is still stress on our body. When our body under distress, it releases cortisol, and if we are not resilient enough, it's probably too much stress. That's why we always need to understand at what level of health we are now, and how much stress we can afford, like how much stress we can put on our body. Yeah, but mobility training, resistance training is obviously what you suggest, I believe, right? So like 3-4 times per week, probably.
So I'll be more specific. I mean, in general, yes, but for longevity, our goal in lifting, my goal in lifting for longevity, is power, which means moving its strength and velocity, right? Why do we need that? So that we do not fall down and break a bone, so that we can get up off the floor, so that if we need to pick up speed if we need it. How we lift depends on what our goals are. If we're younger and our goal is only hypertrophy, we're going to lift in a different way. If our goal is endurance, we're going to lift in a different way. But for longevity and power, so that the 1 in 3 women that end up in a nursing home do not do that and can stay at home, the way that myself and many other people in my space prescribe lifting is to lift heavy. Because without the strategic stimuli, the anabolic stimulus of enough estrogen, it's harder to build muscle. So to do so, we have to stimulate the muscle by lifting more heavy. And here's the thing. I get thousands of questions about this every day. Everyone's heavy is different. But when we looked it up in the research, most women underestimate what they're capable of and will start lifting at 50% of what they're capable of. And so we're teaching them not only to lift safely, but to lift more heavy to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. So lifting heavy, number one. When we do aerobic workouts, we need to work out on the 2 ends of our heart range, in a very low heart range, brisk walking, and then with highest intensity. Because here's where the cortisol problem comes in, and where people need to really evaluate what they're working out for. If we're working out in the middle every single day, we're putting reps on our body, we're not allowing recovery, we're not going to get the results of body composition changes and building more muscle that people want. And people are really frustrated. I get these comments all the time when they're just doing middle of the road workouts every day. They're not reaching their fitness goals and they're getting hurt a lot. So it is science-based, and the way we prescribe exercise to do low intensity and highest intensity along with heavy lifting. And then something that I add to all my programs is balance and foot speed, retraining our ability to move quickly so that if we do trip and need to fall down, we don't land flat or break a bone. So those are some of the components. And frankly, it's not overwhelming. People sometimes get overwhelmed with, oh, there's so many steps to it. We'll start one step at a time. Everybody knows how to walk. You can start with walking and learn how to lift. And then eventually we'll add sprinting, which doesn't mean sprinting on a track. It can be on any apparatus as long as our heart rate gets up as high as possible.
Yeah, and also we should move every day besides those HIIT training, resistance training, because still, like we need to pump our lymph fluid constantly. And this is everyday movement as important as exercising. I would say that training is necessarily for building muscles, for maintaining strong bones, and jumping as well, right? Jumping for bones.
And jumping for bone impact, yes. All my programs have jumping in it.
Great. And I like that you explained me once again that this exercising is actually very good for our brain. And we also talked about measurement, testing. It's so important that our health has to be data-driven, personalized. What about measurement of bone health? I know DEXA is probably the most well-known bone density. But once we want to assess not only bone density, but bone quality, I have heard about REMS. REMS. Okay. And I already know that in some clinics in Florida, they provide this REMS. What it is, did you try? Do you suggest how it's different from DEXA? It's different because, as I said, not only bone density, but bone quality, because some bones, they can show on DEXA more strong, but really the composition of bones is really matter as well. What is like the composition, maybe bones has to be a little bit more flexible, let's say, so they don't crack at some point, right?
Well, yes. So I have heard of REMS. In fact, I had heard about it several years ago. And then when I was recently on a speaking tour in Australia, I had a fantastic opportunity to talk to some of the originators of it. So it's an ultrasound modality, which sends sound waves down through the tissues into the bones, and then those are reflected back up to really tell us not only the density of the bone, but more of the quality measures. The thing is, even though REMS has been found at this point to measure different variables, we're not sure how to apply it in terms of, for instance, we know that a bone density of minus 2.5, which is osteoporosis, predisposes us to X fractures, just because it's been the research standard for so many years. So where REMS is right now is not only clinical application, but in the research stage to really draw cause and effect of X bone density results in X fewer fractures, for instance. But it is an alternative. But in the United States and in many other countries that I deal with, neither are readily accessible. I mean, physicians are not ordering them in the United States. Insurance will only pay for a DEXA scan after 65. But Julia, I get DEXA scans on everybody. And I have 24-year-olds and 30-year-olds who have bad bone density. And so I think, if you have any family history of poor bone quality, including your mother is shrinking, you are shrinking, you've had a fracture after age 20, you've had a low impact fracture, meaning, okay, so you wrap your car around a tree in an accident, that's trauma. But a low impact means you stepped off a curve and broke your ankle or something. If you ever smoked, ever had a high intake of alcohol, if you, for health reasons, had to take a lot of steroids like asthma, those are all risk factors for poor bone quality. On top of the fact that many young women are not laying down enough bone in their youth because they're underfeeding, either because they're not eating, because they're sedentary, or because they're so physically active, they're burning more calories than they're taking in. Even young women do not lay down enough bones sometimes. So if you have any of those risk factors, it is better to save your coffee money and go buy a DEXA scan or go buy a REM scan, just so you know.
Yes, exactly. Early stage prevention is so important, and I believe we switched from this disease care to prevention model, and I know that you also believe in this. That's why we're so on the same page, and I'm so honored to have you with us as a speaker, as a keynote speaker at the Ultimate Wellness Conference at Faena Forum in Miami Beach on September 26th through 28th. We are going to have amazing transformative weekend with over 30 leading experts in longevity, holistic health practitioners, regenerative medicine doctors, and functional medicine doctors and inventors in health tech and biotech, those who are in forefront of these new innovations, cutting edge technologies. And we are going to have amazing time. We are going to be empowered and inspired, and so we will have great expo of selected biohacking technologies. One of the technologies that may interest you is NeoX. Maybe you have heard about this. It's machine for recovery for high performers, NeoX.
I haven't, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm
Yeah. By the way, maybe you will find something new which you didn't see before. And our conference is so different from many other conferences because we provide immersive experiences, spiritual meditations, sound healing with the orchestra. It's all in our iconic, beautiful location, Faena Forum, very special place. So look forward to it, and I encourage our followers to purchase their tickets with the promo code Dr. Wanda at the ultimatewellness.miami/forum. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I look forward to it.
Yeah, me too.